Charles Manson was an orchestrator. He didn't physically participate in the murders of August 1969. Instead, he catalyzed a group dynamic that compelled others to kill on his behalf.
We have a habit of looking at a crime and
Members of the Manson
psychoanalyzing the
family
person who
functioned
committed
with
it.
total
But
psychological
looking at an
dependence.
isolated individual
This
in a
cohesion
vacuum
allowed the
misses
group
the
to act
engine
as a
driving
single
their
unit,
actions.
replacing
Human
individual
behavior is
morality
almost
with a collective
entirely
sense
group
of purpose.
behavior.
The
From the
resulting
moment we are
violence
born,
lacked
we go
any
through a
strategic
process of
utility or
socialization.
financial profit.
We absorb the beliefs,
High-profile
attitudes,
victims
and
like Sharon
ideologies
Tate
of the groups
were
around
targeted
us.
as a
It is how
demonstration
we
of
build
group
trust
obedience,
and learn to
a
operate in
specific
society.
type of orchestrated
When an
crime that
individual
individuals
fails to
almost
assimilate
never
into the
commit
primary
when acting
culture,
alone.
they are pushed to the margins.
This dynamic scales
They
up
become
significantly
isolates,
within
cut off
structured
from standard
syndicates.
systems of social
Groups
and
like the
economic
Hells Angels
influence.
manage thousands
Nature
of members
abhors a
across
vacuum,
international
and
chapters,
people have a biological
utilizing their
need to
collective
invest
identity
emotionally
to
in others.
execute complex
If the primary
operations,
culture rejects
ranging
them,
from truck
they will gang
hijacking
together
to
anyway.
large-scale narcotics
Take Charles
distribution.
Manson. A
Complex
cohesive
crime
group
and
with a
extreme
strong
violence are
gravitational
rarely the
center can
product of
compel an
isolated
individual
rogues.
to execute
In these
brutal
scenarios,
actions they
the
would
group
never
functions
consider
as a
on their own.
catalyst,
This
overriding
dynamic
individual
extends to
restraint
larger
to
organized
achieve a collective
subcultures.
objective.
Vast outlaw
Biologically,
motorcycle
humans are a
networks form
gregarious
tightly
species.
bound
We
societies,
possess an
organizing
instinctual
themselves
requirement
around
to herd,
specific
a
shared
drive
deviant
translating
skills,
into a deep
from
emotional
motorcycle
investment
theft
in other
to
people.
physical combat.
We practice this
Understanding
investment first
crime
in the family.
requires looking
As our
past the
primary
lone
social
wolf.
group, the
To
family
understand
is
deviant
responsible for
behavior,
our initial
we have to
socialization,
dissect the invisible
assimilating the
architecture
beliefs
of the
required
group
to
itself.
function in society.
When criminal
When
justice
socialization
administrators,
breaks down due
police
to neglect,
officers,
it
judges,
creates
or
an
prison
emotional
wardens
deficit,
look at an
fracturing
offender
the individual's
population,
connection
they
to their
tend to
first
see a
social
collection
anchor.
of
But the
disconnected
biological
individuals
need for
defined
belonging
by their
remains.
specific offenses.
The isolated individual
Treating that
seeks out an
population
alternative
simply as a
cluster,
roster of
drawn to any
isolated
group
people
providing the structure they
guarantees
lack.
systemic
A
failure
street
in a
gang
correctional
provides a
environment.
surrogate social
The
infrastructure.
formal rules of a
Joining
cell
is
block
an attempt
mean
to
very
satisfy
little
the
if they ignore the
biological
social
drive for a
reality of
family
the people
when the
living
primary
inside
group
it.
fails.
An organizational
Gangs
chart might
explicitly
show the
fill
warden at
void
the
of
top
fractured
and the
homes.
inmates at
They
the bottom.
provide physical
The
protection,
reality is an
rigid
informal,
social
chaotic
expectations,
power
and a
network
clear
that
identity
operates completely
reinforced by
independent of
uniforms
the
and
official
shared
hierarchy.
symbols.
We
To
can
understand group
deconstruct this
organization,
chaos using a
researchers
quantitative
use
mapping
sociometry,
tool called
pioneered by
sociometry.
J.L.
It
Moreno.
translates
This field
invisible
allows
social
for the
ties
quantitative
into a
mapping of
visible
invisible
mathematical
interpersonal
blueprint,
ties within a
revealing
community.
how informal
This
networks
sociogram
override formal
visualizes the
authority.
gang's hidden architecture,
Badges and formal
pinpointing
titles
where
are
social
secondary
influence
to actual
concentrates.
influence.
It shows the
Whoever
most connected
accurately
members
maps the
aren't
informal
always the most
network
intelligent.
is the one who controls
Instead,
the
a
system.
leader making rapid
In
decisions provides
1927,
emotional
Frederick
stability
Thrasher
and crucial
conducted a
assurance
massive
to a
study
group
of
of
street
insecure
gangs in
followers.
Chicago. He
Street gangs
observed that the
operate as
membership
highly
of a gang
efficient
is
social
highly
networks.
transitory.
They succeed
Young
by
men
weaponizing the
participate for a
deep
few
human
years and
requirement
move on.
for social connection
But the
and
structural
predictable roles.
organization of the gang
The
itself
traditional
remains
response to crime
remarkably
is to
permanent.
forcefully isolate the
These
offender.
structures naturally
By
emerge
placing
to resolve the
individuals in
status
solitary
frustrations of
environments,
lower-class youth.
the justice system
When
attempts
legitimate
to
paths
fix
to success are
antisocial
blocked,
behavior
the
by
gang
removing
provides
the
a new
social
framework
context
where members
entirely.
can equalize their social
Isolation
status
often
and gain
backfires
leverage.
because it ignores
The gang
the
acts
gregarious
as a
nature of the
necessary
species.
testing ground.
It
Removing
allows members
offenders
to
from all
collectively
groups
explore
typically
alternative
worsens their
rules for
inability
action,
to relate to others,
relying on each other as they
reinforcing the
test
very
out techniques
deficits
that
to
led to
neutralize
their
the
original
moral
criminal
influence
behavior.
of a law-abiding
A more
society.
effective approach
Inside
utilizes
these
the power of the
organizations,
pack.
members forge a
Techniques
highly
like
insular
guided group
identity.
interaction
They
place
establish
offenders
strict
in clinical
internal
circles,
hierarchies,
replicating
dominance
the gang's
rules,
peer
and their
structure,
own rigid
but
rules
directing
regarding
its
property
influence
and
towards
community.
socialized values.
Gangs function as
Programs
highly
like
effective
positive
delivery
peer culture
systems for
turn peer
socialization,
pressure on its head.
activating as
In
a
this
primary
system, the
framework
group is
when the
made
traditional
responsible for
culture
the
fails to
behavior of
provide
its
a path
members,
to status.
forcing peers to
To
teach
map these
and heal one
alternative
another
systems,
through
we
collective
turn to
accountability.
psychiatrist Jacob Marino, who pioneered
If
the
peer
field of
influence
sociometry.
is the force that
Sociometry
socializes a
is the
person
study of
into a gang,
society's
it
psychological
is the
structure.
only force
It
powerful
maps a
enough to
community by
socialize
placing
them back
individuals
into
in
the community.
situations where they spontaneously
Within these
identify who
therapeutic
they like,
groups,
who they
offenders
dislike,
use
and who they want
role-playing
to
and
avoid.
sociodrama to
Marino
rehearse
called
the
this
world
tele,
outside.
a mutual empathy
They
binding a
practice
group.
difficult,
Plotting these
real-world
connections
interactions,
reveals
like
clear
facing an
patterns,
employer or a parent,
tightly clustered
to build a
cliques of
repertoire
people
of
choosing
appropriate
each other,
responses.
stark red
Sensitivity
lines of
training
mutual
goes
rejection,
further, forcing
and isolated
participants to
individuals
divest themselves
entirely
of their hardened
bypassed by the
titles.
network.
In
By
these
plotting
sessions,
these
the
precise
inmate and the
elements of
officer
attraction and
must
rejection
interact simply
and
as men and
unpredictable
women,
social
but dynamic
breaking
is
down the
transformed
ascribed
into a
roles that
predictable,
prevent empathy.
manageable mathematical
These
blueprint.
interactions demonstrate
This
that
mapping
human
reveals a
behavior is
paradox.
changed by people,
Sociograms
not by
frequently
abstract
show
programs.
that the informal leader
A program
of a gang
is
or
merely a
prison block
delivery system
actually
that facilitates
scores
the
lower
human
on
contact
intelligence metrics
required
than
for
the
real
group
change.
average. High
True
intelligence
rehabilitation
carries a heavy
is an
cognitive
act of
burden.
socialization.
Highly
It
intelligent
works by taking
individuals
the
are
same
sensitive to a
psychological
massive number of
mechanisms that
variables
once
and
built a
potential
gang
consequences,
and using them
which
to
often
rebuild
leads
a
to
person.
decision paralysis. A less intelligent but practical person evaluates a smaller set of factors. They can make a definitive decision long before all the information is in. For a peer group composed of highly insecure, nervous individuals, that rapid decision-making is incredibly valuable. The leader absorbs the group's anxiety, radiating emotional stability and assurance back out to the network. In these environments, criminal leadership is rarely a function of cognitive superiority. It is a function of emotional anchoring within a volatile network. We can see exactly how this works in a real-world administrative crisis. In a major Midwestern prison, administrators needed to select a new director of classification from 15 eligible candidates. Looking purely at formal metrics, the choice seemed obvious. Candidate 1 achieved the highest score on the civil service exam, but mapping staff preferences revealed two divided cliques. Top scorer Candidate 1 was an isolate. True power rested with Candidates 2 and 4, the informal leaders. Only Candidate 3 uniquely connected to both cliques and to Candidate 1. The administrator appointed Candidate 3. He was the only person who could bridge the gap and hold the group together without the department fracturing into open warfare. Adhering strictly to formal test scores while ignoring the sociogram would have collapsed the department entirely. The formal organization chart is a theory. The informal network is the reality. This brings us from mapping the network to actively intervening in it, which is the central challenge in rehabilitating delinquent youth. The standard clinical approach has historically been to isolate the delinquent from their peers and apply authority-driven one-on-one counseling. But this ignores the deeply ingrained defense mechanisms built by the criminal network. Gang members are extensively trained to neutralize reality and project the blame for their actions back onto society. As a result, the existing peer network actively repels the outside authority figure. The moment the counselor attempts to make a connection, the clique's overlapping protective boundaries sever it, rendering the therapy useless. Attempting to reform an individual's behavior without addressing the peer network anchoring that behavior is mathematically guaranteed to fail. The solution developed by modern corrections is found in models like guided group interaction and positive peer culture. Instead of fighting against peer pressure, these systems weaponize it. They use the peer group itself as the primary vehicle for behavioral change. In this model, the therapist does not dictate rules. They act as a catalyst, motivating and guiding the group so that the responsibility for behavior is reversed entirely onto the peers. Techniques like sociodrama and role-playing are introduced to explicitly rewire how members respond to authority and resolve their internal role confusion before they return to society. Once the structure is reoriented, the group collectively enforces positive norms far more effectively than any external warden or therapist ever could. Deviant behavior is simply a symptom of network equilibrium.
To dismantle a gang, stop a riot, or rehabilitate an offender, you cannot just remove a node. You have to